Hello, everyone. This is my first time here. I think it's going to be very hard to top the previous talks, and especially lunch is coming. And my topic, I know, usually people find it either very boring or even worse, annoying. And my mission, I consider that I'm trying to convince people that we can have a good, profitable business while also being environmentally and socially responsible. And the first step for that is communication and information that we share. It needs to be transparent, it needs to be credible. So this is the talk of my presentation today. I come from Kansai Helios. We are one of the top coating companies in Europe. The headquarters is in Vienna. I come from Slovenia. We have a huge production plant in Slovenia, which is actually on the picture here. And we have production location all over the Europe and now even the world, like China, India, and Brazil. We produce all sorts of coatings, but the one that I'm here today is obviously road marking coatings. And we offer very wide range portfolio, beginning from road marking paints, which covers solvent-based one component, two component, and water-based, obviously. Then cold plastic system. We have a spray plastic and cold plastic. Then thermoplastic markings with hot applied, performed, and smart solutions. What we mean by that is basically all these cycle pedestrian line markings, playgrounds, high friction surfaces, airports, and so forth. I think there was one missing. Back? Yes, this one. I did want to show a couple of references projects. Those something that we worked on. It's highways in Austria, Germany, airport in Vienna, and then some bicycle paths all over. This one is in Austria. So coming back to the main topic, right? Why do we even talk about sustainability in road markings? And what do I mean by that? Basically, I advocate for having sustainable road system, which means balancing social responsibility with environmental responsibility. What it means social. Basically, it's very clear in a road markings, this is safety. And very frequently, people forget that sustainability doesn't mean only environment. It has to have this social component, without which it means absolutely nothing. So this is what I advocate for. And there are a couple of different factors that needs to be considered when we talk about sustainability in road markings. First one, obviously, is durability. How long something is going to last. Second one is resource use. Whatever we make in the world today, we use resources. They can be material resources, they can be energy resources. There are emissions that we emit while making something, right? That comes into place. Then microplastics. Unfortunately, this comes hand in hand with road markings, and it needs to be taken into account. And then the aforementioned social aspects, which is safety. Road markings needs to be visible for drivers and, as we heard just moments ago, for automated vehicles as well. So how do we measure? Because I said there are factors that we need to consider, but what language do we use? And how do we measure if something is more or less sustainable? We need to have a language that we can all understand and that we can all put on a level playing field, right? It needs to be transparent, it needs to be credible, and it needs to be comparable, right? So in order to do that, I'm going to introduce a couple of different terms that you might come across even in different fields, right? So that we can all know what we talk about. So the first one is product carbon footprint. You probably heard about that one. It usually says, oh, this so-and-so emits so much kilos or tons of CO2 equivalent. This is basically nothing but the summation of greenhouse gases, not only CO2, but it's the most famous one or infamous one, that are emitted during the life cycle of a product, from the extraction of the raw materials all the way till the end of life, right? And units are kilos or tons of CO2 equivalent, as I mentioned. There are two terms that everybody needs to be familiar with. And this is cradle to grave. Usually it is mentioned like this is product carbon footprint, and it's cradle to grave, which means from the beginning till the end. But then there is another one, which is called cradle to gate, which is what companies frequently and very, very frequently actually give out because they don't know what happens to their products after they put it on the market. They don't know the use, they don't know end of life. So they issue something called, this is product carbon footprint, cradle to gate. So it's very important to distinguish these two. And now let's go to the road markings, right? What you see here are actually product carbon footprint for different road marking systems. I found this in the paper published by DCGS. No. I practice, honestly, like, fun fact, my husband is half German, so that's why I have this last name. So I asked him, like, how do you pronounce this? We practiced for 10 minutes, and then he gave up. So I cannot pronounce this, but the second word was killing me. Then he told me how to say the short one. I was like, no, in English it's DSGS. So anyway, clearly I can't even remember that one. But more importantly, these are the product carbon footprints for different road marking systems. And you can see the difference. But we have everything here. We have type 1, we have type 2, we have different, obviously, waterborne, solvent-borne, we have even a tape, right? This number includes also application, and that's why you can see with thermoplastics that application piece, the gray one, is a little bit more, obviously, because it requires a lot more energy for that. And then it does include a broadcast material as well. So you can see the wide range, right? But like I said, this is up to initial installation. It doesn't take into account the use of these road markings, what happens afterwards. So another example, this is again only type 2 because it's applied for the same purpose under same conditions, and this is actually in a system of medium to high traffic scenarios, so basically 10 to 15 vehicles per day. And here you can actually compare and see which one gives you advantage. And the winner clearly is called plastics. The reason why it's simply more durable, right? It's more durable. You can see this N letter equal 3 and then N equal 8. This is how many times you have to apply it to last 15 years. So the home take point is here that more durable system, like cold play or cold plastic or thermoplastic, require fewer renewals, and that's why they have a lower carbon footprint, which is obviously good for everybody. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of more like acronyms or names because they're also important, and one of which you probably heard, because if you are applying to some tenders, usually they require EPDs or environmental product declaration. But to get to the EPDs, you need these steps before that. You start with life cycle assessment, which is a study. Then you follow certain product category rule to get your EPD that you can then submit when you're applying for a tender. LCA is basically a lot more complicated than just a product carbon footprint because it takes into account all various environmental impacts. It's not only carbon emissions, but it talks about water use, land use, eutrophication, pollution, particle matters, and so forth. So it's very, very all-encompassing. It does require huge databases and some software use. You cannot do it with a pencil and a paper. Databases are becoming better and better as the years are coming along, even though this technique exists for like 40 years. It's been started in the 70s. So once you've done this LCA, then you move and select product category rule. So basically, this is just a playbook, like a cookbook, right? I have done my LCA, and now I reference this product category rule to see what sort of impacts I need to disclose for my EPD, what are the boundaries, what are the declared units, what are the functional units, and then you go and make your EPD. EPD, I like to say it's like a nutrition label for the sustainability, or sometimes I call it LCA light, because you have this huge study, which is LCA, and then you pick only certain facts and you put it in the EPD. And this needs to be actually third-party verified. Even though if you have expertise in-house, like we do all of our LCAs in-house, somebody outside needs to verify your calculation, what you use, what kind of PCR, what you selected, and then it gets published. And this is public document. But you have to have it, right? I do want to point out that in June of this year, there's been a new, it's called complementary product carbon product rulebook 034 for the road marking system. This one goes hand in hand with PCR for construction product. That's why it has this little c, because it's complementary. It applies to all major types of road markings. So waterborne, solvent-borne, thermoplastics, cold plastic sprays, everything. It does have a declared unit of kilos or meter square, but it does have also functional unit. So basically, functional unit is meter square, so how meter square of road paint, right? Over a defined reference service life. So I want to point out that this is not a lifetime of that system. It's a reference service life, that it's usually either referenced in some either standards or in your field test or something like that. It needs to be clearly stated what it is, right? It's not the useful lifetime of a road painting, but it's a reference service life. And cradle to grave is a recommended approach. Basically, they advocate if you can, please take the use phase into consideration as well. Do not end with the application, because there could be huge differences in the use phase, right? This was developed by international committee, and the organization that I referenced before, the GES, they were also included in all these consultation. So like I said, this been published and official since June of this year, so it's fairly new. So what about microplastics? Because I mentioned that in the beginning. Microplastic is something that is very frequently mentioned when we talk about road markings. I found this, basically this is a study done by Fraunhofer, and they have done like a top 10 producers of microplastics in Germany. So that's why you see this is grams per capita per year in Germany. By far, something that creates the most microplastics is abrasion from tires. This is not even comparable to anything else. But you can see that there is mentioned also road marking, right? So if you back calculate this bar, how much grams per capita per year is, and actually the guys from DSGS, they have done that, given that 30,000 tons of road markings are applied in Germany per year, this would represent 25% abrasion rate, which is a little bit high. So what they are saying is maybe they overestimated this microplastics, right? So if you take into account 30,000 tons of road markings applied annually in Germany, the guys from DSGS, they back calculated that about 1,400 or so, or close to 5%, basically is lost to microplastics. So it's much lower than previously mentioned 25%, but nonetheless, you cannot discredit it. It does exist. It can be an issue. It is very important to mention that a third of microplastics is coming from the paint system, right? Even though only 1/5 of them is applied. So again, we are coming back to the previously said that the more durable systems are better, not only for the carbon footprint, not only for the LCA, but also for the microplastic. And the microplastics is also mentioned in the previous PCR that I said it was newly established in June, it does mention that if you are publishing EPD that includes use life, you should consider including microplastics. Even though I have to say that LCA itself, it doesn't prescribe how to include microplastics. Usually it's included in the marine litter or plastic pollutions. But if you can, you should think about including it, and you should use empirically available abrasion rates like the one that I mentioned on the slide before. So like I said, only applies if you include use phase in your EPD. Basically, this is something that not all of us are doing, but it's something that's getting a lot of more push, so it might be really distinguishing feature of the product in the future. And I'm gonna conclude going back to the company that I work for. Like I mentioned previously, we have in-house expertise. We do all of our product carbon footprints for all the systems and all the coatings that we sell. We do our own life cycle assessments for anything and everything that we need to do. And then obviously, when it's needed, we go to a third party and we get EPD verified, like it's the case here for the road marking that we have done just recently. So hopefully I didn't bore you, and maybe I tried to convince you that you can do both. You can be very credible, transparent, and have a good business as well. Thank you.